Listen, I exist, and all of us realize what's going on. We care and we matter. It felt so serious, and yet I was happy because so many children were focused on the same idea that we had the power to make peace. Even children as young as 4 or 5 years old wanted to vote because they wanted peace. The following day, a group of us got together to watch the announcement of the results by the Registras General on television. He was almost crying, and we screamed when we heard just how many children had voted. Many adults had supported the mandate because they saw it as an educational exercise to help Colombian children learn about good citizenship. Instead, by voting in such huge numbers and by showing that we really understood what the war was doing to us, we taught adults a lesson. They were the ones who had been letting us down. They were the ones who had not taken part in elections, had given us a weak government, and had allowed the war to continue. A month after the children's mandate, UNICEF, Red Paz, and the anti-kidnapping group called País Libre, Free Country, announced that they would support a citizens' mandate to be held the following year. The citizens' mandate asked adult Colombians to support the children's mandate and condemn the atrocities of the war, the kidnapping, disappearances, massacres, and forced displacement. It also asked for a ban on the recruitment of child soldiers by all the armed groups and for everyone to make a personal pledge to help peace. Chiki and I campaigned hard to get adults to vote in the citizens' mandate. Many had no idea that their own children had taken part in the children's mandate. Allow were skeptical. Why should we bother? Why should we bother to vote? What difference can it make? But look at the state of the country, we told them. Look what is happening. At least this is something you can do. You can be united and vote for peace. On October 26, 1997, we went all over Soacha urging people to vote. And when we heard the news that more than 10 million Colombians supported the citizens' mandate, we were ecstatic. Now, none of the armed groups could say that they were acting on the behalf of the Colombian people unless they were making peace. 6 months after the citizens' mandate, Andrés Pastrana was elected president of Colombia on a promise to make peace. Since then, the government and the armed groups had begun to talk. Yet, despite this, the war is worse. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people are forced out of their homes. More of them arrive in this city every day. The massacres and the kidnappings continue, and more often, children are the targets. We have made some important breakthroughs. The government agreed to end the recruitment of boys under the age of 18 into the army. Yet, the other armed groups continue to recruit children to fight. Often, they put them in the front line. And the greatest danger, though the war continues, we can never give up. There's there's so much we can do, even right here at home. Twice every week, I go to different schools in Soacha or in even poorer barrios further up in the mountainsides, like El Progreso, where those families who have the most have where those family where oh my god, where those families who have most recently fled from their homes have settled. I have to take the bus to El Progreso, but most of the bus drivers know about the work I am trying to do. They charge only what I can afford for the fare, and often let me ride for free. Oh my god, I'm choking a lot of words. The road to El Progreso winds upwards, past rough shacks perched dangerously close to steep cliffs. The hills are deeply scattered where rocks have been removed for use in construction projects. Such such work is hard, backbreaking, and poorly paid, but many children from displaced families work on these sites. Their families have fallen into such deep poverty that the children drop out of school and do whatever they can to earn money. From the road, I walk ankle deep in slippery mud across a makeshift footbridge that spans a stinking, contaminated river. The school consists of half a dozen diplomatic rooms clustered under a tin roof. The wooden desks are battered and broken. Rubbish litters the sides of the classrooms. There's no electricity. Once one of the classrooms has only a skylight and no other windows. The floor is made of dirt. The rain thunders so noisily on the roof that everyone has to shout to be heard, and water leaks through everywhere. One classroom wall is decorated with paintings done by the children of pretty houses that contrast sharply with the surroundings. Perhaps these are images of the homes they once had or that they long for in the future. There are no qualified teachers for schools like this, so the government has sent police cadets to teach the children. The cadets have no training and run the classrooms in a military style that does not encourage much creativity or free expression. When I arrived at when I arrived, the cadets hand the class over to me, and the children are usually very glad. At first, when I ask a class, "What rights do children have?" they often reply that we have the right to have a dog, to go to the park, to have friends, or to go swimming on Sundays. But then we talk about newborn babies and ask, what is a first right? To life? To good health? Doesn't this child get hungry and need something? Yes, they answered. The baby must have food. And so we talk about the life of a growing child, and through this we discover all of our rights. I use pamphlets prepared by UNICEF and World Division that explain the children's movement for peace and the Convention of the Rights of the Child in simple language. The convention is an international treaty of the United Nations ratified by almost every country in the world except the United States and Somalia. I tell the kids our rights are part of the law of our country. Some of the children are withdrawn, others are disruptive and want to draw attention to themselves. One boy called Pepe sometimes grabs the peace posters and tears them to shreds. Many have been traumatized by violence and the abrupt escape from their homes. But there are no psychologists around to help. I met Gladys in El Progreso. She was 15 years old and would often fight with the other kids if we were working on our project. She would run around the room, upsetting the tables and spilling the paints. Gradually, I learned what had happened to her family. They had been living on a small farm near Monteria in Córdoba, but one of the armed groups had forced them to leave and they lost everything. Her father talked only of revenge and had banned her from taking part in any peace activities. Even though she was so disruptive, I could see that she was interested in knowing more about the peace movement. So, one day, I persuaded Gladys to take me to her home. The family was living in a one-room shack with no door. A piece of sacking, a piece of sacking hung in front of the entrance. Her father was home. Her father was home, and I talked with him about the children's movement for peace and how we were trying to help children feel strong and capable of helping themselves. Later, I introduced him to some of the promoters of the World Vision, and eventually he became a community leader himself. Sometimes Gladys is still disruptive, but she also talks to me directly now and often joins in activities. Sometimes a larger group of 20 or 30 young people in the movement get together to run workshops together for parents and children on family violence.